For years, I shot almost everything on a 50mm cine lens. I love the way it isolates a subject. I love the compression. And to be honest, I've never been a huge fan of wide shots. They often feel flat with deeper depth of field, and they can make it very difficult to create depth and separation in a scene. But I kept running into the same problem. Small offices, tight conference rooms, large groups of people. The locations looked great, but my 50 simply wasn't wide enough. So I finally decided to test a 35mm lens. After taking it on a few shoots, I discovered something I wasn't expecting. The 35 didn't just give me a wider shot, it gave me a new way to create close-ups. I could move physically closer to my subject, maintain that sense of intimacy, and at the same time, show more of the world around them. Close-ups with context. Let's dive right in. None of us need a video to understand that a wide-angle lens is better in tight spaces. The real question is this: can a 35 create the same intimacy and emotional connection that I get with my 50mm? Can the 35 keep the viewer connected to the subject? Can it create emotions without feeling like a wide shot? Can it give me the benefit of a wide lens without sacrificing the things that I love about my 50? Because if the answer is yes, then this isn't a solution for tight spaces. It's another storytelling tool. For this test, I decided to use the Viltrox 35mm f1.8. It's a fairly inexpensive lens, coming in right under $400, which is especially impressive for a full-frame lens with a maximum aperture of 1.8. The first thing I noticed about the Viltrox was how easy the lens was to work with. The lens is small, it's super lightweight, less than a pound, and it comes with a native E-mount or a Nikon mount, so there's no adapters for me to worry about when I mount it on my FX3 or my FX6, and it balanced really well on the Ronin or my track. I was very surprised, especially when I moved closer, when I tried to maintain a sense of intimacy with the subject, and I wanted to bring the audience close, and so by moving closer, I then realized that the close-ups opened up the world behind the subject and gave context to those more intimate shots. And that I liked. Here's an example that I took with my 50mm, and you can see that the elephant is separated from the background because of the shallow depth of field. Without changing the lighting or any of the camera settings, I'm going to switch now to the Viltrox 35. And I'm going to try to move the camera closer to frame the elephant the same way as it's framed on the 50. The elephant remains the focus, but now we begin to understand the room around it. We see a lot more of the cabinet, more of the space, and more of the environment the subject exists in. And that's what I mean by close-up with context. The subject hasn't become smaller. The frame hasn't become a traditional wide shot. Instead, we've gained information without sacrificing the connection to the subject. In this case, the 50 creates a more isolated image. The 35 creates a more descriptive image. Neither is right or wrong, they're simply telling the story in different ways. In corporate films, it's pretty important to establish a sense of place, to help the viewers understand where they are. And that's where I found the 35 most useful. What's interesting about these two shots is that they're both relatively close to the subject, yet neither feels confined to just the person. In the first shot, the 35 allows me to stay close enough to the presenter that he remains the clear focal point of the frame. At the same time, we can still see the audience behind him, which immediately gives us context about what's happening. Now the second shot pushes that idea even further. I'm physically very close to the subject, creating the kind of intimacy I normally associate with the 50. Yet because of the wider field of view, we're still able to see the whiteboard, the office furniture, and a hint of the people around him. The environment hasn't disappeared. The subject still carries the emotional weight of the frame, but the wider field of view gives us additional information about who they are and where they are, without sacrificing that sense of connection. I expected to simply fit more into the frame. What I didn't expect was how often it allowed me to stay close to the action while preserving the sense of place. And because it's a f1.8, I can shoot wide open and get a beautiful shallow depth of field. The Viltrox does support autofocus, although at the time of filming this, that functionality isn't yet available on my FX3 or FX6, so check the link in the description to find out if your camera is supported. For me, that wasn't a major issue because I never rely on autofocus. What surprised me is how small the gap in image quality actually is between these two lenses. We're comparing a nearly $5,000 Cine lens to a lens that costs less than $400. Yet the Viltrox holds up remarkably well. The lens stayed sharp, even fully open, and the colors felt accurate. It has a slight greenish tone, which also matches the Canon lens. In a finished corporate film, after color grading and editing, I doubt most clients would ever notice which lens was used. More importantly, I found it very easy to match footage from the Viltrox with the footage from my Canon CN-E, so it allows me to seamlessly blend shots from both lenses within the same project. The 35 gives me a way to establish the environment and the relationship within the scene. Then I can switch to the 50 to isolate moments, reactions, or details. Instead of competing with each other, the two focal lengths work together to tell a more complete story. Now, this shot was taken with the 35, and it's something that I probably could have done with the 50. This office is fairly large for an office, but it would require me to go way back. And with the 35, I can stay really close. I can use that to fill the frame with my subject. They don't seem very small in the frame. And because I can shoot wide open, I have a shallow depth of field, and I can use foreground and background element to create even more depth into my scene. For the price point, the value that you get out of this little lens is unbelievable to me. And it's small enough that I can just toss it in my kit. It's there with me. It's super easy to access. And that's why it's now a permanent fixture into my kit. Actually, I like it so much that I already ordered the 90mm f2.2 from Viltrox as well. If you'd like more information about this lens, go check out the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video and want more practical cinematography breakdown, focus on real-world filmmaking, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and happy filming.